I originally wanted this like meeting for everybody to be able to kind of share their stories because I kind of thought for a while, and I shared this with Richie, that something that I would like that I would feel would be very helpful for other people is to be able to have a conversation like what we're having right now, and for everybody to be able to kind of share, like Liam to be able to share, like, well, this was my experience and this is what I've walked out. This is where I am in the process, in the journey of it. And and to be, because the story and the narrative has an impact. Like your story, no matter whether you feel, well, I've heard all these stories about how significantly Sean abused this other person, but mine doesn't feel as impactful. It's still, you're in a different place with it and it still impacted you, right? And for Richie, the same too, like Richie can share, like, I witnessed this happen and I saw it, but it didn't happen to me. So I may not necessarily feel like, and that I'm in the same place as someone else might be, but I still feel like that there is a value and worth in each of our narratives that we've worked out. I don't feel like my story is as significant as some of the things I've been told because I really set up strong boundaries when it came to Sean. And so, but my story actually has been found. I have had multiple people come in and say, just reading your story made me make a decision, and it validated something that I felt inside of me that I didn't quite know what it was. Like I knew something was off. Melody said that to me the other day. She was like,
Mm.
I've known from the beginning there was something that was off, especially whenever he came or he told us on a call that we weren't burn directors if we didn't show up at the summit. And we didn't even have money to pay for diapers at that point. So there, it validated something small just in whatever I shared with her, which was very, like basic. And this is just my story, validated something in her to be like, I was, I, I felt it. So I just kind of wanted to begin to open that conversation of, is this something that we pursue as far as, and I like the value of coming together because I feel like me being on a video is great. But if I have myself on a video and Liam on a video and Richie on a video and Amanda on a video and each of us sharing our part of the story, because Amanda doesn't think she has a story, but she's lived with this with me for the last, 8 years.
Yeah.
So she actually does. She does. Now, maybe she wasn't direct affected, but she was affected by it. So that's kind of where my thoughts are today.
Well, thank you. Thanks for sharing.
Oh.
Yeah. Uh, I think that in, I think since you've asked me to kind of reflect on my time, um, I've I've kind of put together some of the pieces and acknowledged some of the things. Um, but I do feel like my story is a little different in that so I met Sean in 2013, I think, 2012 or 2013. There is a mouse in my, I don't know if you see it. I've seen it twice now.
What?
There's a mouse in my dishwasher,
Is
and
he
I
your
will.
pet?
It's not a pet mouse. It is a new thing happening. It is fall in Oklahoma, and the mice want to live in my dishwasher. So, but anyway, sorry. I keep seeing it, and I'm like, what in the world is
No,
that?
New
I'm
tenant.
gonna, would you say,
um,
Ruthie?
I said new tenant.
Oh,
yeah,
you
dude, new
did
tenant,
it.
bro. I'm not even paying, man. Not, I'm like feeding him, dude. What's up? Jeez.
I'm gonna have to keep an eye
Um,
out now.
Yeah, you're gonna see a little guy, a little field mouse. But anyways, it's new to me. I didn't know. I'm learning this right now. So super
Love
thankful
it.
for this perspective. So now I
Right.
know
There
that
you
there's a
go.
mouse in my kitchen. But um, no, in 2013, I'm in Oklahoma City. I helped plant a church, Crestwood Vineyard, and the first Sunday that I led worship, a guy came up to me and was like, "Hey, do you know about Burn 24/7?" And then I met Sandy Springer. It was literally like the first Sunday that I led worship when we planted this church. And I was like, I haven't, I don't know any of these words that you just said to me. And then I met Sandy Springer, and Sandy was like, "We're a community." Yeah, no, shout out, Mama Sandy,
Lover.
legend.
Yes.
Um, anyways, just a community of people adoring Jesus for like days on end. To which my heart said, what? Like this sounds like my tribe, like these are the types of people that I want to be friends with. The people that are just like getting in a room and worshiping. Like, let's get down on this. So I kind of like quick jumped into leading worship from 2 to 4 in the morning. Um, that's when that's like literally changed my life. I have the same story that everybody has. I came with 40 songs because we had to do 2 hours, and it's like I got done with 40 songs in 30 minutes. And so I was like, what do I do? What do I sing? What is this thing? And then at the end of the 30 minutes, I just found myself like singing these heart songs and choruses to the Lord. And I found a new part of myself. And it wasn't until I met Sean that I really had language for what was happening. I didn't know about Tabernacle of David. I didn't know about all of these different theological ideas and ideologies and the orthopraxy that comes with it. So like the outpouring of these things, like there's an orthodoxy, so the right thought, and then the orthopraxy, the right practice of like, this is why we do this.
Yeah.
And then I heard the phrase musicianary for the first time, and I was like, that's what I am. Like, pretty simple. Like that makes sense to me. And as if you know Sandy Springer, she is very quick to invite anybody to do anything. She is like dangerously welcoming, where she says, if anybody has a gift, like she carries that First Corinthians things. Like if you have a gift, like bring it before the Lord. If we have a gathering, like you're supposed to lay it down. And Sean came into town to do, I think it was right before, it was either the launch of Light a Candle or right before the first trip to Iraq. That he was coming, he was just kind of sharing the testimony and what was happening in Iraq and all that stuff. And so we had a gathering in Oklahoma City. And I met Sean that night, but it was because Mama Sandy gave me a microphone and said, I need you to sing. And I sang something, and I think just naturally my gifting, people get really confused sometimes when I start singing. It's like, what just happened? And that's the Lord in my life, and it's a blessing, and I've really enjoyed that. And but that's exactly what happened. Sean was like, "Who are you? What just happened?" Like, that was wild. And so we sat down, and he just started to grill me and ask me all this, and then started saying things like, "You need to go to Hillside. You need to do this, do all this stuff." And I think he just gave me a lot of on ramps, and that was kind of I think the best way to say the next, like, how long was 7 years? I did it for 7 years. I was part of the Burn from 2013 up until 2020. It was just like a lot of invitation to take on more. And I think I found myself wrapped up in the movement. Like I found myself like being so gung ho and like bought out for this thing because of what I experienced, right? I experienced a community of people adoring Jesus, longing for just the presence of God and just kind of that purity of the presence. And it transformed me. And I was like, I want other people to have this. And so it's hard to separate that reality from like the systematic things that are also happening alongside. because I think that that's the heart, and I genuinely believe that that is the whole reason all of it started. I genuinely believe everything started from that place.
Yeah.
Um, but what I think I started to realize as I like took on more and more volunteer roles, I became the leader of Burn 24/7 OKC. I became the regional director. I took over field training. I took over the burn wagon. I had like just I was doing a lot. Um, and there a lot of volunteer roles. Like there it's all it was like give your time, give your time, give your time, give your time. And it's very like there will be returns on your, it's very like eternal reward centered, which I'm not going to get into that theology. Do I believe that there are storehouses in heaven for all my volunteer work? Like very possibly yes. like you know what I mean? Like I don't know how that works. I don't know. I'm not a part of like king kingdom economy is weird to me. It's upside down anyways. But all that to say,
True.
all that to say, I think I was pastoring and I was giving an additional 40 plus hours to the movement. I was working like 80 and 90-hour weeks and I like wasn't clicking that I just was grinding. Like it wasn't
Mm-hmm.
I was doing it. I just was like this it has to get done. XYZ has to get done. And then, the burn wagon's weird and we can't do it now. And we're trying to do a summit and trying to do a regional summit, but all the while we're like trying to make sure the burn's still going. And but
Mm-hmm.
also I'm overseeing 10 burns and I'm trying to be in community with the people in Arkansas, in Texas, in Oklahoma.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and it just like was a lot of work. Um, and I think what I started to see was like, am I just like, am I just like dying for somebody else's pocketbook here?
Mm.
That's kind of the thing that started to set in my heart. And I tried really, really hard um, to like not get burnt on that.
Mm.
Like, but there was still something in there where I was like, man, something's weird. Um, and then we did a tour with Sean. Sean invited me to be a part of a regional tour. So it was like 2018, 2019. Whenever I officially became the regional guy, I don't know what
I
the
think it
time
was,
is.
I think it was,
Something like that. 17, 18.
I think it was in 18.
Okay, that makes
At the
sense.
end
Okay.
of 18. Like it was
Yeah, fall 2018.
October to like,
Yes.
yeah, I think that's when it was.
Yeah, yeah. So we went on this tour, which was, it was a blast. It was super fun. Um, I did pay for everything out of pocket. I flew to San Antonio. And I hopped on this thing and drove around and was driving with Sean and all this stuff. And ended up back in Oklahoma City. And I think when we got back to Oklahoma City, so the different churches we were a part of, it was like the Bethel Austin plant that we went to. We went to this other cool little church plant in San Antonio. We went to Upper Room. Like we led worship at Upper Room. Sean led worship at Upper Room. And we got kind of thrown in the mix, all this stuff. And then the last place we came was like my Vineyard Church in Oklahoma City, which is like just like salt of the earth people, like 300 people maybe on a Sunday. Um, these other churches were like big deal churches, right?
Sure.
And so I think we get into my church, and I think there was just kind of like a shift of maybe like respect or expectation, where Sean was like, if 1,000 people don't show up tonight, I don't know if tonight's worth it. Started saying things like that. Um, some of the people were late to show up for sound check, and that like really pissed him off. And he was starting to say a bunch of hard stuff. And then he was having a hard time hearing himself because like we didn't have the greatest tech. Um, and I think the friends that I invited to come play, who are like fantastic players, some of the best dudes I've ever met in my entire life, best musicians I know, um, that are like touring studio musicians, were like, hey man, I don't know if I want to play with this cat again. Like, I don't know if I can do it again. And so I put a lot of like my social equity on the line with these guys. And that was really hard. It was really, really hard. And I think that was the first time where I was like, ooh, like character integrity, like I should start to evaluate some of these things. And then a year later, Sean hits me up, and I think it's when he's running for state representative in California. I think that was the next year, it was 2019 or something.
Yes.
He announced it. I'm still doing all this other stuff
Well,
with the burn.
I think that was maybe a little bit later, though.
2019
Was it
or 2020?
2019 or was it 2020?
I
It
think it was
was
20
fall of 2019
fall
into 2020.
Okay.
Thanks, Richie.
Yeah.
So that because that summer was the summit, and we were all up in North Dakota hanging out.
Yeah.
Which was really a really fun time.
Yeah.
I really enjoyed it. But that's when Sean told kind of the leadership team, because I was invited to the pre-summit hang, and that's when he told us, hey, I'm running for the House of Representatives in California. And I remember being like, wait, what's happening? And just like the thought, I think I don't want to get into too much of the political swirl, but that was the first time where I felt this like almost like suffocated a little bit, where I was like, I don't know if I like that. And so now I'm like, I have all these pieces kind of stirring together. Like a month or so later, Sean's like, hey, I'm coming to Oklahoma City to campaign. And he's like coming to get funds in Oklahoma City for his California election, which is like, that's like very normal political stuff. But Sean rolls into the city, and I just like was his chauffeur. I like chauffeured him around. I was still working that day. I took him to work, and then drove him around to his stuff. And then I drove him after his like campaign thing. I drove him down to Dallas, like from Oklahoma City after his campaign thing. I got back home at like 4 in the morning, 5 in the morning. And this trip to me, I think on the trip down, it was hanging out. Well, not Dallas. I drove to Denton. Sorry.
Close enough.
It's still 3 hours. It's a 3-hour trip. Either way. So it was really good to like having one-on-one time with Sean felt special, because he's a sought after guy. It feels special when you're one-on-one with him. He does a really good job in that space. Like that's something. He's charismatic. He's a leader in that way, where it's like he has the woo thing where it's like, let's get you on board, let's get you to sign up again. And I think that's the thing where it's like, oh my gosh, yeah, like this is what we're doing, this is why we do it. I remember after I dropped him off and I was driving back home, kind of being like, I just drove a politician to Dallas. Like, I signed up to be a musicianary. Like, the thing that I signed up for and what it looks like right now are just like really throwing me off, right? And then 2020 happens. So when 2020 20 happens and the let us worship thing erupts, I felt super uncomfortable continuing to be a part of the burn because I was either too conservative for continuing to hold gatherings where people are coming to hang out, or too liberal because I was asking people to like social distance, wear a mask, be safe, be smart, don't come if you're sick. So I was I was trying to be like a pastor to a people. I was trying to share my heart and like keep them safe and tell them to like follow CDC guidelines, do the health thing, but also if you want to come be a part of this, we're going to do a thing, but we're going to try and do it the safest that we can, just like everybody else in America. I was just like everybody else, you know? And the fact that I became liberal or like told I'm a liberal, told I'm a communist, and then also told I was a fascist and like the same breath. And I was like, I don't want, I want to be known by love. And that's my entire purpose of living, is to be known for the fragrance of Jesus and for presenting the fragrance of Jesus. So the fact that this is happening, I don't want to do this. Um, and so I called Sean and I just told him like, hey man, and I think I gave him 4 reasons. I'm pretty sure 3 or 4 reasons that like, hey, I'm not comfortable with this. One, that like the mandates that you're seeing in California are not the same things we're seeing in Oklahoma. So whatever is happening, you're saying you want all of us to get on board for, and it's very different. And he acknowledged that. And he's like, yeah, but you aren't experiencing it the way I'm experiencing it in California. To which I said, you're right. I'm not. The second thing I was like, I don't know if you should make a political statement out of worship gatherings. And I don't want to be a part of a political movement. Like I didn't sign up to do Burn 24/7 to wear a flag that is red or blue. Like I'm trying to like tell people about Jesus. And he just kind of was like shares his he has rhetoric and he feels very strongly about being a conservative evangelical. He feels very, very strongly about it. So strongly that he believes that, at least in my interpretation of what he said, it feels like that's the only way to be a Christian, is to be a conservative evangelical, like to have Christianity mix with the church. That feels like something he has said multiple times, and that's not something I agree with, ideologically or in scripture. I don't think that's the way of Jesus. So that was the second thing. And then I started talking about like a lot of the questions around where's the money coming from and why is the money getting raised in a time when so many people are getting hurt. There's a ton of money coming in, and that there's like people starting to use the phrase the Sean show. Like we're going to the Sean show. This is the Sean show. That's the phrase that started getting thrown around. And so I told him about that, and I was just like, hey, I'm worried about the amount of money that's getting thrown into this thing. There's a lot of money. People are starting to look into your finances. Like, is this going to affect me? You know, like we've made a grand total of $1,000 in the 7 years that I've done the burn in Oklahoma City. And I've spent all $1,000 on food to like give to people that come hang out, you know, or like pay for people's gas. You know, that's just like, that's what we had money for. And like, so like, if somebody like comes for Sean, is it going to come all the way down the line? And am I going to get hit with something because, and I'm like, just being honest and open with them. And I think he went into his charismatic mode. He went into politician mode. And I remember leaving that conversation going, I don't know if I was heard, but I know that he thinks I know where he stands on this. And so that's when I started my transition. That's when I started to ask the questions and pray. I started talking to you, Mom Christy, um, and just about what to do next. And I'm not here to be a political leader of the movement. And so that was in the middle of 2020. And I have done that differently or better, or invited the leadership team into like the board? Could I have invited the board into that conversation or my process? Like I had relationship with all those guys. I love all those guys. And think the best and hope the best for them. In the same way that I hope the best for Sean. I hope Sean, I wish him the best, right? I'm not here to like spread ill will or spread animosity. I'm just here to share like this is has been my experience. And I'll double down on the fact that I feel like I got invited in and was given red carpet access. Like I was given the table, like all this stuff. I became leaders of a ton of things because there was trust, because they believed in my ability, which I think is the big thing. Like my anointing and my ability really made a way for me, which is a very Burn 24/7 common story. Like if you ask people, the people that have the most talent, a lot of times are the people pushed to the front of leadership, which makes it an attractive movement. Like that makes things attractive.
Yeah.
Yep. But all that to say, like now I'm 4 years removed from this. Like it's 2024. That was in 2020. I feel completely okay. And I feel that the 7 years that I invested in the movement and the people in the movement and the relationships was not a waste. I feel like knowing Sean was also not a waste, and knowing Sean today, it's not a waste. I think were you here? Was that last year or was that 2 years ago when Sean came up and did when was his Capital Tour? 2020 or was that 2023?
He started it. Go ahead, Richie.
Do you know, Richie?
When he started the Capitol, we started it.
Oh, I think that started last year, and then this year's the second year of it.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So it was last year.
Yeah.
So when you were here, whenever we got coffee last year, right? And because you came up because you're like, I'm going to help support the people in the area. You're going to come hang out with Emily and all the people, Emily Blood, and a shout out to somebody who just like, I tried to hand over things well and don't know if I did it the best, but I did the best I could. Oh, bless her. I was like, I have fumes to give you, I don't know what else to say, but I do believe in this thing in our city, I do believe that worship and prayer is important in our city. And she was did you see the mouse?
Oh, I just saw him.
I just went over there. Anyways. No, I remember when you were like, I think you invited me or you asked if I was going to come be a part. And I was like, I don't know if I've thought about seeing Sean in years, but he's going to be in Oklahoma City, which is a weird thing because there's something he's had said to me when I stepped down was, I won't come to Oklahoma City unless you give me my blessing. Like, unless you give the blessing. But he said that to me.
Wow.
Which was like, I don't know what that is. I don't know what that.
Yeah.
I think in part that's like respect, but I think in other part I was like, that's really weird. That's like a very bizarre power play. I don't know what's going on there, but it is something he said. So for him to come and not tell me or like not ask me, it was like, okay, I no longer get that bill of respect because I'm not a part of it anymore, But all that to say, when he came, there was like part of me was like, I should definitely go. Like I should go be a part of it. And then there's a part of me that was like just like viscerally against it. And then
Mhm.
there was a part of me that was like, maybe I should just like go get a bottle of whiskey. You know what I mean? And like have like a just like a peace offering drink with Sean. You know what I mean? Which I feel like could have been a thing. I feel like could have been well received. And but at the end of the day, I was like, I don't have the energy. I don't have the energy in my life is in this, like the trajectory is over here. Um, and I'm okay, like I'm good. And so I think at the end of the day, I was able to say like, we're okay, we're okay. So I think that's like a good synopsis of what I've experienced.
Yeah.
Um, and there's plenty, I mean, I can share more insight, but I think I think those kind of pieces are the ones that are marked in my head as like these are the times at which something shifted or the times at which
Mm-hmm.
I needed to ask a different question.
Yeah.
Um, so yeah.
Wow.
You met me in a very interesting time of life.
Yeah.
Like listening to you talk, I was like, oh, I like Liam went on this trip. I don't know how obvious it was or not, but I like this girl I was like kind of dating, kind of not. Um, from South Africa had come all the way to America and somehow ended up on like a little burn like trip thing with us. It was crazy. And we ended things this night at a BJ's. And it was like the most awkward thing ever. And Liam was there. So I apologize, Liam.
No, it was like I was like, dude, I love you. This is hard. Like, I don't know. What do we do, man?
I'm happily married now to a beautiful girl from that I met from the UK,
Awesome.
Hillside, UK, actually.
Oh, let's
Um,
go.
yeah, so redemption.
Fruit, baby.
But just hearing your story was really powerful, and there's I'm sure there's more, but I could relate to so much of what you said. Like even the driving thing. I drove
Oh yeah.
Sean literally
Everywhere.
everywhere in California. And when you're like, oh, it's like a special thing, it's like, I was like, oh yeah, that is like a very weird dynamic of you get, in my experience, like you get used, but then somehow like you're, you get them at 4 a.m. You've had no sleep, and you're a few $100 out of pocket for like Sean's expenses,
Yeah.
and then you're like, oh, but this is an honor, no one else gets to do this.
I was chosen.
Mm.
Yeah, I was exactly. So yeah, there was just a lot you said that you have a different journey than I do, but there were still so many similarities. And um yeah, I mean I would love to do another one of these, or like just ring you myself one day and we can chat
Yeah.
more. But it was very
100%.
very very like healing to hear. And then
Mhm.
even like I don't really know when you left or weren't a part of things. We had different timelines in the burn and everything, but I just remember one day like hearing through the grapevine of like, oh, Liam went woke, and all this all this stuff. And it was like you were painted in such a broad stroke
Yep.
that it was just it was basically as if like, oh, you deconstructed and weren't walking with the Lord anymore. And I was just like, oh, well, that's so sad. Like I barely even knew that person.
Mm.
But like none of it was, there's no context or any of it like
I can
true.
I can tell you with like full heart that I haven't loved Jesus more. And
Yeah.
I'm emotional about it.
Yeah.
I cry at the name of Jesus now, which
Mm.
hasn't been a thing in different series of my life. So
Yeah.
but yeah, no, and that's hard to hear, but also I think if you're not for us, you're against us.
Yeah, no, exactly.
Yeah, but I appreciate you, bro. Have fun drumming.
Yeah,
Go drum
I
your heart
will,
out, bro.
bro. I will. Nothing like the healing rooms is like from 9 to 12, so it's a long set. So you got a lot of space to have
Figure it
fun and
out.
play around and experiment and do whatever. So it's a good time.
That sounds
Good
awesome.
man.
Yeah.
Wow.
But yeah, thanks Christy and Amanda for organizing this.
Yeah.
You know, I don't know what it all looks like going forward, but you got my support in
Yeah.
all of it. You know, like I said, I don't. There's so many parts of it where I'm like, I didn't even want to engage in this. You know, and then there's parts where it's like, but I care about the people.
Yeah.
Like, it's not a fun idea of how I want to spend like hours of my life, reopening these things.
Yeah.
But like, there's so many beautiful pieces to it as well, and so I'm with you, Christine. Like, if I can do anything that helps more people from being caught up in, like, yes, caught up in abusive situations, but even if I could just steer someone away from, like, that's probably just gonna suck a little bit for you. Like, I want to do that too,
Absolutely.
So yeah, however I can help and be a part, I'm here.
I love you, Richie. You're awesome.
Love y'all.
Yeah. You're
I'm
awesome.
gonna run.
All
I've
right.
never been this on time or early in my life, so maybe we need to have a 6 a.m. call every time before I drum.
Don't give me that kind of leeway, because
She'll
once
do
I
it.
get on something, I'm on it.
She'll do it. Yeah, don't tempt her. She'll do it.
And then I'll be there and we'll all be waking up early.
Yeah.
Exactly.
That's amazing. No,
Awesome. Okay,
you're
well,
awesome.
y'all have
All
a
right.
great Saturday.
Love you.
Have
Thanks,
fun, man.
Richie.
Okay, bye.
Bye. Awesome. Thank you. Thank you. I don't know that, Liam, I don't know that you and I have talked so much over the years. I think one of the things that really impacted me in your story, and like I said, we've talked so much over because
Right.
we're very close, but I think the thing that really impacted me is the amount of labor, because you have such capacity. Like, you're such an amazing everything. Mouse killer and everything.
I'm gonna get it.
I mean, you're
I'm
gonna
gonna get
get,
that
I know
mouse.
you're ready. But I mean, you have such incredible capacity, and what was preyed on for you that you never even realized until years later was your capacity was preyed on. And just to hear you say, I was working 80 hours a week for the movement for nothing. And and that, in the moment when we were doing all of that, like, that didn't, because I'm a high capacity person
It
too.
didn't register. We're on calls like 4 times a week.
Yeah. And yeah.
It's just
And
normal.
yeah, that's what we do. And
Yeah.
and this is why we do it, and that labors of love, I mean, I'm all about it and everything, but I think that just hearing you reflect back on that is very powerful, because I think so many people are gonna really relate to that part of, not just because I know you, but like, that really impacted me just listening to you just say it. And and the amount that you gave, and nobody ever even realized that, you yourself included. Nobody ever really acknowledged that, because, well, you're Liam, you can handle it. Like, you have high capacity and it's what you live for, or whatever the acknowledgement is there, that's
Yeah.
there. So,
Totally.
but that was really, really powerful. And, I'm so glad that Richie was able to be a part of it too, because we did this with him individually a few weeks
Mm-hmm.
ago, and so much of what you shared is exactly what he shared.
Yeah.
And the impact and about the finances, the money, and like he was the one carrying the backpack of hundreds of thousands of dollars that he would just have to hand over. And you know so I think I know that really hearing your part of it, because like your timelines were different. So
Yeah.
but I know you got to run because you got to go
I gotta go play.
you got to go play, which is amazing. I'm so excited for you. Amanda, I want to give you 2 seconds.
You and Christy had a very close and strong relationship, and you and I didn't get to be in those spaces together. So for me to be able to hear your part of the story was really good, and hearing your insight, and really just seeing the way that you and Richie connect over your experiences is so good, because I feel like that's kind of what's going to drive the truth, and more people coming forward and more healing happening is when we can get together and hear each other's stories and relate to what everybody experienced, because the part of the abuse is isolation,
Mm-hmm.
and everybody is made to feel like they're alone in this and they're the only one experiencing it, and it's all about you know what I mean? And so being able to bring everybody together and relate to each other is really going to help drive the healing that needs to happen. And everybody's in different places. Like you said, you're 4 years removed from it. And
Yeah.
Christy's still hearing from people that are still in the midst of it,
Yeah.
that are in it, and they're trying to decide whether they want to stay in it. And we all know that, the hard thing is when people say, I feel God on this, because he is in the heart of it.
Oh man.
But God doesn't want us to stay in the midst of abuse. He doesn't want his children to be abused. And so it's hard for the victim, though, to be okay leaving, to say it's okay. God is not going to be mad at me if I leave. I am not abandoning my call if I leave abuse. And I think so anyway, I just want to say that I appreciate you, and thanks for letting me be a part, and I miss you.
Oh,
Yeah.
thank you.
Yeah.
Miss you back. It's hard. I think there's an element of like you make it your whole world.
Yes.
So how do I leave my whole world?
Absolutely.
How do I say goodbye to this thing that I've like, this is all I've known. Like this is what I've been invested. This is the ground that I know. And
Absolutely.
I've known for at that time 7 years. And I was like, I'm gonna say bye to, and then having to weigh like, if I say bye to this, there are relationships that are never coming back.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
That I've given it almost a decade of friendship to
Yeah.
some of these people that I'm like,
Yeah.
I haven't talked to any of the guys on the board. Not a one of them. I haven't had a chat with Jamie. I haven't talked to Caleb. Like I haven't talked to anybody.
Yeah.
Yeah. And that's sad. That's sad for me. That's the part that I think is the most sad, because those dudes were like I use the phrase friend tours, where it's like there's people that are just like a couple steps ahead of you, these dudes in their like mid 40s, and I'm in my mid 30s. It's like, you're a mentor, yes, but you're not like so far removed from me that you know everything that my life that's come from my life. Like you're just experiencing my next step right now.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so these like friend tour relationships, that as I'm like sitting in the room hearing you preach, but also just hearing you process through stuff, it's like that's a bummer.
Yeah.
It's a bummer to lose that stuff.
Yeah, it is. For sure.
But I'm glad we're still friends.
You're not getting rid of me.
I'll never get rid of you. It's the hardest thing. I've never actively tried.
No.
I'll be honest. I haven't actively tried to get rid of you, but
I
I don't.
appreciate that. I appreciate that.
Even if
I
you
don't
did,
think
she
I will.
wouldn't make it easy. Just
I was gonna
saying.
say it'd be really hard. You'd show up at my house before you'd
Oh,
let
yeah.
me. I feel like you'd show up here.
I'd be
I
like
know
that
that.
little mouse in your
Tenacious. Yeah,
dishwasher.
right. Seriously. I'm
Here
spending the night.
I am.
I'm here and I'm spending the night. What are you doing right now? Because cancel it.
Or no, she'll just go with you. I
Yeah.
mean, she'll
We
just
don't
go
have
with
to
you.
cancel. I'll just go.
We're going to get ice cream immediately or coffee, depending on the time of day. One of the two.
Love it. You're the best. You're the very best. I love you so much.
Yeah.
Really.
Also, just like if I don't know what you're doing, if you're like clipping up or sharing or, but you have, I mean, you have my permission to
Thank
do
you.
what you need to. It's what I shared, and I don't.
I love it. It was so good.
So, yeah. So if there's anybody that's like, hey, listen to Liam, if there's people that as you're talking,
Yes.
feel free, do whatever you need to.
I so appreciate that. And that is my plan. That is
Cool.
how it's going to all translate. Cause me and technology are not friends, but I am starting to ask for help
Yeah.
in that avenue. And that is my plan because like what just transpired between you and Richie was exactly the vision.
That's what you want.
That's exactly what I'm really looking for because it makes so much impact. And then when you're watching it happen, it's like, and I know all the backstory of it. So, for me, it's even more powerful because I'm watching it happen and I'm like, wow, this is exactly what I was after and what I felt like the Lord was asking of us to facilitate. So,
Yeah.
And where else we go with it, I don't know, but I do know that this was really important. So go play.
I'm gonna
And
go play.
I love you.
I love you guys.
And if you're willing to maybe do this again with maybe one or two other people in the future, I will reach out and give your wife my love.
I
And
will.